Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first EAS webinar of 2025. And it's a warm welcome from myself and the board, the EAS board, to all our members. And in addition to welcoming our members, we would like to extend a warm welcome to three distinguished gentlemen of the game, two of which are our special guests for this evening. And the latter, of course, is our host, namely Mr. Erwin van der Sande. Without further delay, I pass you over to our host, who will introduce to you the special guests and the schedule for this evening. Would you please, Erwin?
Thank you, Gus. And also from my side, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening and welcome to this webinar. It's an honor and a pleasure to be your host tonight. First, let me take you through the schedule. In a few moments, we'll start with a keynote of Mr. Pablo Gonzales. He's Strategic Intelligence Specialist of UEFA. He will talk for 20 minutes about transfer window trends. Afterwards, there will be an opportunity to ask him questions. You can put your questions during his session in the Q&A box. We then move on with Herr Thomas Henning. He's head of recruitment at VfB Stuttgart in Germany, and he will take us behind the scenes of the transfer window. Here also, you will have the chance to ask questions afterwards. Like a football game, this webinar will take 90 minutes. This session will also be recorded and saved within 7 days to the website of EAS for access afterwards. So that's the schedule of this webinar. Good. Mr. Pablo Gonzales, he's 29 years old and since 2.5 years working in the UEFA Intelligence Center. He has an engineering degree and 2 masters on big data and AI applied to sports. Before, he worked on IT and financial consulting at Deloitte and NTT Data. I must say, quite an impressive CV. At UEFA, he has mostly been working on the 2 annual European Club Landscape benchmarking reports on talent and competition structures on one hand, and on finances and investment on the other hand. I'm sure it will be a very interesting keynote. Pablo, the stage is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me share the screen and you can confirm if you can see the presentation. So then we can start.
Yeah, Pablo, I can confirm we see the screen.
So thank you, everyone, for being here today. I would like to thank everyone at the EAS for allowing us the opportunity to come and show some of the latest transfer window trends that we've been able to spot in recent years. It's a pleasure, not only for me, but for everyone in my team to be able to join this event and show a little bit of the work that we do at the UEFA Intelligence Center. So the presentation will be split into 3 parts. First, I'll do a little introduction to the people working at the Intelligence Center and talk a little bit about what we do. Secondly, I would like as well to do a brief introduction to some football finances, as it will help give context to the numbers we'll later see on the transfers. Finally, the bulk of the presentation will be talking about the transfer landscape and what are some of the trends that we've been able to identify during these last few years. So this is everyone working at the UEFA Intelligence Center. We're a team that is growing quite a lot in these last few years, with 6 of us joining since 2022. Our main objective is to create the biggest database of football and be able to provide the necessary data to football stakeholders to support their decision making. In order to do that, the team has grown into 2 different parts. First, we have our data team, which is mainly responsible for all the data gathering, treatment, and data harmonization processes. Secondly, we have our analytics team. which is responsible for creating the annual reports on the football landscape, as well as being a direct connection with other units at UEFA and the national associations, giving them support with any requests they might need. As I just mentioned, we're very proud of our annual benchmarking report. This report covers many topics related to European club football, ranging from competition structures in domestic football, the usage of talent across all the 55 national associations, club finances, ownership, and, of course, trends in the transfer market. We used to produce one annual report, but it ended up growing a bit too much, with over 250 pages in the last 2022 version. Since last year, we've split the report into two separate reports. On the top right, you can see the first, which covers all the talent and competition and is released usually in early or mid-September. Secondly, we have our finance and investment landscape report, which we'll be releasing later this month. Getting into the football trends, to give some context to the numbers, the report covers all top division clubs, which of course range from a lot of sizes. We have clustered teams in 5 different groups to give some perspective of the different sizes of clubs that we have in Europe. As you can see here, the sizes of the clubs range quite a bit, from 50 to 100 million. Clubs that have 100 to 250 million in revenue. And of course, the big clubs that everyone knows, the clubs that make over 250 million in revenue, which are 22. European football club revenues have been on an incredible rise over the last 2 decades. That growth was interrupted by COVID-19 pandemic, which saw clubs lose an estimated 6 to 7 billion in revenue over a 3-year period. The ability to drop costs was very difficult for clubs, as most of the contracts were long-term, making it very difficult to restructure. However, the recovery has been swift. In 2023, top division clubs reported a record 26.8 billion in revenue, a 12% increase from 2022 and an impressive 20% above pre-pandemic levels. All revenue streams have seen strong growth over the last 15 years. During this time frame, top division club revenues have increased by 142%, from less than 12 billion euros to more than 28 billion, with all revenue streams growing. However, the rates of growth before and after the pandemic differ considerably, with broadcasting growing 125% between 2009 and 2019, and just 3% between 2019 and 2024. While club revenue does not directly include transfers, it is also worth noting that transfer income has grown 179% in that time. This data refers to gross transfer earnings, which is reported separately in club accounts. Transfer earnings also surged in this time, more than doubling. One of the most relevant findings that we've been seeing while reviewing the data for this next report is the growth in wages. While player wages growth has been controlled by mechanisms such as the squad cost ratio introduced by financial fair play regulations, non-player wages have seen a huge growth, with 19.3% growth during the latest financial year. Currently, the trend is continuously up, with player wages up 5% and non-player wages up 13% in 2024 for the clubs that have reported their finance numbers early. Now I will get into the bulk of the presentation, which is why most of the attendees are here. We'll be going through some of the factors and trends seen across this last summer transfer window, and as well the last 5 transfer windows. So as we look to the summer of 2024 in European football, these are several key factors and trends that had a significant impact on the market dynamics. This transfer window took place with the context of record club revenues, as we saw before. The increased UEFA club competition money has also led to higher budgets for many clubs, as well as the increase in Premier League television rights. But this surge was not mirrored across the other big 5 European leagues. The timing of Euro 2024 also had its predictable impact on transfer activity. Historically, international tournaments like the Euro or World Cup tend to suppress transfer volumes by 8 to 10% during the summer. The regulatory level strengthened UEFA financial stability and cost control rules came into force this summer. Clubs across Europe had to carefully navigate these new financial regulations, ensuring that their spending remained sustainable while still pursuing their transfer targets. In England, the Premier League clubs faced even stricter domestic financial rules, along with the threat of sporting sanctions. As a result, many English clubs look to offset their spending by selling players to generate transfer profits. Meanwhile, in Spain, financial constraints continue to weigh heavily on transfer activity. The stringent financial rules meant that Spanish clubs spent far less than their counterparts, with transfer volumes still 60% below pre-pandemic peaks and well below the level seen in France, Germany, and Italy. Finally, we also saw a reduction in the level of liquidity from Saudi clubs. While last year saw a staggering 900 million euros in net spending from Saudi Arabia, this last summer the figure dropped to approximately 400 million euros. European clubs spent a total of 6.7 billion on transfers this summer. This is 8% lower than last summer's record, but it's still the third highest window on record and more than double the 3.1 billion that European clubs spent a decade ago in the summer of 2014. It is sometimes hard to know what is happening beyond the headline transfers, but arranging transfer fees from high to low and grouping the summer transfer fees in different trenches allows us to dig below the surface. Compared to last summer's record 2023 transfer window, European club spending on the very top superstar transfers has decreased by 33%, with 8 deals in 2023 matching or exceeding the largest reported 2024 fee. The next group, ranked 11 to 50 by deal value, also decreased by 14%, while the mid-range tranche of deals, ranked 51 to 250 by deal value, increased by 1%, reflecting a more balanced transfer window. If we compare reported transfer fees to market values, we can clearly see that deals between English clubs carried a significant premium. On average, fees for transfers within the Premier League were 49% higher than market value, amounting 400 million euros paid above expected market values. In contrast, transfer fees outside England tended to be below market value. For example, when English clubs sold players abroad, they did so at an average of 7% below market value. Similarly, non-English clubs within the Big Four leagues, Germany, Spain, Italy, and France, sold their players at 16% below market value, while clubs from UEFA non-Big Five leagues reported sales at 9% below market value. This chart shows transfers by volume during the summer transfer window. We have included some photos for what we consider large value deals, which are those deals reported at 40 million euros or more. This summer, a total of 24 large value deals have been reported. These 24 large value deals is up from seven during pandemic, but it's way below the record of 43 large value deals seen last summer. This has been heavily impacted by English and Saudi Arabian clubs' expenditure, with the large value deals coming from English clubs being reduced by half and only one large deal coming from a Saudi club, after a total of 8 recorded last summer. Another factor that shaped the market was the performance of players in major international tournaments. Of the 24 transfers valued at 40 million euros or more, 11 players had participated in Euro 2024, and 4 more feature in Copa America. In total, players who feature in Euro 2024 squads alone accounted for a combined transfer value of 1.1 billion. For the latest 2024 summer transfer window, the lower spend is partly explained by backing up activity during the Euro. Transfer activity is typically 8 to 10% lower during these years, as there is less time for transfer chains to multiply across the window. 23% of the transfer spend was arranged in advance before July 1st, opening at the same pace as the previous 2023 summer transfer window. By the time Euro 2024 drew to a close in mid-July, European club spending was 12% below last summer's level. Transfer activity progressed over the summer at a regular pace before a heavy investment of approximately 1.6 billion in the last 2 weeks of the window. In summer 2019, only 560 million euros was spent the last 2 weeks, notably because England and Italy windows were closed in line with the start of the season. In the chart, you can see in gray what the 2019 spending looked like, and in blue, you can see the last transfer window. European clubs earned an impressive 6.9 billion from transfer fees, making this the second highest summer transfer window on record in terms of sales value. However, the steep decrease in Saudi Arabian transfer spend, combined with the decreases in spending by English, Belgian, and Dutch clubs, contributed to a decrease in earnings from transfer sales of 13% compared to record 2023 summer window. This map shows the 10 largest transfer flows by value in summer 2024. The 10 largest flows comprise 4 of the big 5 internal markets. The 5th, which would be the Spanish, would be ranked 11th. And the 6 other flows involve English clubs at one end or the other. The outbound flow from England to Saudi Arabia dropped from the 5th highest in 2023 to 14% this summer. 47% of global transfer spend by value have involved at least one English club, while 94% have involved at least one European club. The global share of summer spending by clubs from the Big Five has increased from 69% to 73%, but is considerably below the average of the last decade, when the ratio exceeded 80% most summers. English clubs' net spend saw a large decrease as clubs needed to sell in order to balance their books. Other Big Five countries, such as France, Germany, and Italy, recorded a net spend over the summer for the first time since pandemic. Spain had a low net sales following a similar trend to the other Big Five countries. And as I mentioned before, we saw the reduction in the level of liquidity from Saudi clubs, going from a staggering 900 million euros in net spending to below half, approximately 400 million euros. One notable trend this summer was the increased investment in youth. A record 13% of total transfer spend was on teenage players. Prior to this, no summer transfer window had seen more than 10% of transfer fees involved in young talents this age. If the age bar is raised to players aged 23 or under, 53% of total transfer value was directed at these still young players, considerably above the 10-year average of 49%. Within Europe, talent developing clubs in markets seen as stepping stones to the Big Five markets invested nearly all their transfer spending in younger players. Austria spent 88%, Belgium 80%, and France 72%. By contrast, Greek clubs invested just 21% of their spend on younger players, and 1% on teenagers, which are considered 19 or younger. Now, let's take a closer look at the type of transactions across the major European leagues this summer. The comparison of summer transfers shows a fairly stable picture across the top leagues, continuing a trend we saw last year. In nearly every major market, the proportion of permanent inbound transfers with a fee has increased when compared to both pre-pandemic and mid-pandemic period. Across the 20 leagues analyzed, we can see that only 37% of transfers in 2019 and 36% in 2022 included a transfer fee. This percentage has risen to 42% in both 23 and 24. However, Spain stands out as an exception. The proportion of fee-based permanent deals in Spain dropped significantly, from 64% in 2019 to just 46% in 2023 and 2024. This is largely due to strong financial controls that have led Spanish clubs to tighten their transfer budgets and prioritize infrastructure projects instead. In terms of player signings, clubs averaged 8.9 new players from their senior squads this summer, which represents a 5% drop compared to last year. One interesting trend was that for the second consecutive summer, English players attracted the highest transfer fees, with clubs spending 690 million on English talents, which accounted for 12% of the total European spend. Following close behind in demand were French and Brazilian players. Now we'll take a closer look at this past winter transfer window. European clubs are reported to have spent a record spend for January window of 1.5 billion euros. By the time all windows close, the total spend is predicted to be 10% above the previous January 2023 record. In both January 2025 and January 2023, total fees have been skewed by the spend of one club. This window, Manchester City, have spent 280 million euros, and in January 2023, it was Chelsea with 332 million. If these clubs are excluded, the European spend has been fairly consistent at 1.1 billion to 1.3 billion across the 2018-2020 and 2023-2025 January windows. Transfer spend was actually lagging behind the previous seasons, but accelerated in the last week. February 3rd reported European club spend of 380 million is a single-day January window record. Global club spend of 2.3 billion has been reported so far, with many windows remaining open. This is already 29% above the previous record. In this dashboard, we can see the number of inbound deals and spend during the January transfer window of 2019-20, 2023-24, and 2024-25 seasons. There is an increased spend in both volume and price in many top divisions, but it is particularly high in the English Premier League, with a total of 40 inbound deals at an average deal spend of 11.7 million euros. At the Intelligence Center, we also keep a look for the movement of players between MCO groups. While we expected to have a high number of deals, it has actually been declining since 2020. It is also worth pointing out that the majority of deals are usually loans. A record 81% of transfer fees were on cross-border international deals. This is the highest share recorded in a single window. Almost 3/4 of transfer fees are on players 24 and younger, including 15% directed at teenager, which is a similar trend to what we've seen on recent windows, both summer and winter. As context, it is worth reminding that the January windows fees make up only 12% and 20% of total transfer season fees. Despite record January fee levels, the 1.5 billion January spend is 19% of the 8.8 billion season spend, counting both summer 2024 and January 2025. I would like to thank everyone who has been listening to the presentation. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Thank you,
That's
everyone.
right, Pablo. Thank you very much. And dear attendees, don't forget to ask him your questions. You can put them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen already. One question for you, Pablo, from Gary Howard. The premium for deals between English clubs is 49%. What is the premium for English clubs buying players from other Big Five leagues?
Let me see if I have the actual number, because I think I left it. I think it's a little bit below the the market value, but let's see, I have it here. I'll have to get back to you on that one.
Yeah, no worries. Other question: how are you arriving at your definition of market value?
So this is quite simple. We just take the transfer market. We have a database where we scrape all the data from transfer market, and we keep track of the market values of the players, and then we just compare to the financial results that we get from the clubs each year.
Okay, just waiting a few seconds if there are any more questions for Pablo or not. Otherwise, we move on with our second speaker. Just a few moments before we conclude this part of this webinar. I don't see any more questions coming in, Pablo, so I guess it was all very clear, your presentation. Thank you very much. Stay with us for our next speaker. The next speaker started his career in football at Dynamo Dresden, the tradition club in the eastern part of Germany. He did all kinds of jobs within that club during 7 years before moving to Paderborn and finally reaching VfB Stuttgart, where he's now working for 2 years in his current function as head of recruitment. Warm welcome for our German speaker, Thomas Henning. Hi, Thomas.
Hey, Erwin, and a warm
How
welcome
are you?
from my side as well. Hello.
All good?
Yeah, sure. Some interesting insights from Pablo. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing these insights. And now, hopefully, I can share some insights from our last transfer windows as well. I think this is also interesting for the audience. So let's see how we can bring some information to light.
Well, first of all, something about yourself, Thomas. Your passion for football. When did it all start?
Yes, sometimes I do believe I had no chance. I do have 2 siblings, an older one and a younger one. So we are age-wise very close. And I grew up in a very small village. So there was nothing to do except of playing football. I was all day. I think sometimes my parents are telling me I left the house after the breakfast and I came home for dinner. And we played football all time. So sometimes I do believe it was a kind of destiny or not only a coincidence that I started with football. And then I had the luck to, I was reading an article today about a football manager and FIFA. And when it's coming to my career, I have to say thank you to both to Bundesliga manager and to FIFA that I could use this knowledge and possibly the biggest database in football to be there where I am right now. Because without that, possibly I wouldn't be there. So football was my hobby, my life. Now it became a job as well. And I'm still addicted to football.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, as I said, you started your career in Dresden. How did you get there in Dresden?
Honestly, sometimes in football it's about timing. It was a bit of coincidence. I studied football and science, and when I finished my study, I started to apply for jobs, and I was not stupid, so I started to apply for jobs in Zweite Bundesliga, for some youth academies, for an intern. And Dresden was my hometown, and I had the luck that they gave me the green light to start as an intern over there. And I started to work there for 10 months in the Zweite Bundesliga, and then we got relegated. And it was almost agreed that I do start as a normal scout after my intern. And when we got relegated, the sporting director called me and said, "Listen, Thomas, in football, you know how it is. We can't offer you a new job." So, and then Dresden played in the third Bundesliga. I was sitting between the chairs. I was home with my parents again. And we played a cup game against Schalke 04. And Dynamo Dresden won this cup game. And after that cup game, the sporting director was calling me again, and he told me, "Listen, Thomas, now we do have some money. Are you willing to come back to Dresden?" And from there, I started in Dresden again in really different roles. I started as an analyst, as an opponent analyst. I started to scout, and between you and me, there was nothing in Dresden when I started over there. So there was only a book with printed mails from agents passing us players. So I had the chance to teach myself in scouting and analyzing, and this was possibly the best way to start my job, because no one could really tell me what to do, because no one else was there except one other colleague. So the two of us started in that department, and we had the luck to start as analysts and scouts, and there was no education in scouting and analyzing before. So this came after we started our job. This was also possibly good for me, because I had no competitor for this position.
Yeah, but you learned a lot from yourself,
yes,
by experience.
Yes,
yeah,
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
Okay. Afterwards, you were the chief scout at Paderborn and now the head of recruitment at Stuttgart. There also the context can change quickly, because there's a big difference in the club's position when you started and nowadays.
Yes, there's a big difference. Again, this is sometimes about coincidence and luck. When I gave the green light for Stuttgart, it wasn't clear if they do play Erste Bundesliga or Zweite Bundesliga. So when I gave the green light, the team has been on position 18 and close to be relegated. And my first official day in Stuttgart was the relegation home game against Hamburger SV. So I had no idea if we have to create or build a squad for Erste Bundesliga or Zweite Bundesliga. This was possibly the biggest challenge in my life so far. Yeah. But as well, I survived. Now I'm working for a Champions League club. So sometimes football is crazy and it can change quickly.
Yeah. In 1 year, let's say, from relegation to Champions League, it's all possible in football.
Yeah. Still a bit like living in a dream, or you wake up in a dream. So this is something, if you ask me what happened over there, I'm still having no idea, from playing Bundesliga manager with my siblings and becoming champion with SC Freiburg and Champions League winner. Now I'm working for a Champions League club in real life. So sometimes football is unbelievable.
Yeah. Head of recruitment. What is that? What's your role in this traditional club like VfB Stuttgart?
Okay, so first of all, I have to say that the CSO of VfB Stuttgart was my boss in Paderborn as well. So our connection is very close. So he's the guy who educated me, who believed in me when I was working for Dynamo Dresden. So we are very close. So my role in Stuttgart is, I need to say something. There's a big difference between scouting and recruitment. So scouting, and if I do speak about scouting as itself, I'm always sharing the example. When I was playing FIFA tournaments online, there was always a guy taking Real Madrid, there was always a guy taking FC Barcelona, and there was always one crazy guy taking Atletico Madrid because of their defensive block. FC Barcelona was playing with Lionel Messi, and Real Madrid was playing with Cristiano Ronaldo. So there are two completely different profiles, but at the same, there's no real question which player is better. There are different profiles. So this is scouting. You can like Cristiano Ronaldo and you can like Lionel Messi. In recruitment, my job is to deal with all the information, players being available, players coming up from the academy. I do know the salary structure at our club. I do start the first chat with the agents, with the players as well. So I do say welcome to these players. I do have the first interview with the players. So I do provide as many information as possible about the player to the sporting director, the coach, and the CSO. So my job is to collect all the information and to make it as simple as possible to make a decision for the decision makers. This is
you
how
do this on your own because it's 24/7, no?
It is 24/7. So, but it's still, for me, it's still my passion. So it doesn't feel like a job. It's possibly 24/7, but I do have a lot of guys helping me in that case. So I do run a scouting department. We do have only for the first team in total. Sometimes I do say 8, sometimes I do say 9 if I include the data scientists or not. So, and we do have a guy who's a bit in between. So in total, we are responsible for the first team. I do have nine guys. Some doing the data job, some doing the live scouting, some guys in between. So for sure, I have to handle a lot of information, and I do have a really good scouting team helping me, providing me information as well.
Okay. What criteria are important for you by composing your team of scouts, analysts, etc.?
Right here, except of the quality of the player, there are some more criteria which are very important for me or for us as a club. We do have a lot, or our focus is a lot of the character of a player, and if VfB Stuttgart is the right next step for him. So we do believe that if we speak with a player, Stuttgart has to be the right next step for him in terms of development, quality, size of the club, and possibly the next step as well. We know that Stuttgart is not for a lot of, it's not the last step in the career of the players, but I want to see the shining in the eyes of a player when we do speak about VfB Stuttgart. And I do believe that if we do speak about our club, possibly there are bigger clubs, but if it's coming to playing style, if it's coming to recruitment, if it's coming to infrastructure, if it's coming to a city who is loving the club, the football as itself as well, we can provide a big package for a lot of players. And we want to feel that the player is willing to go there as well.
Okay, looking at your own team of analysts and scouts, do you like to have physical meetings with them, or is it possible for you to work with people only digital, only online?
Honestly, I don't mind. I don't care. So there, in a perfect world, I would say, if I do define a perfect world in terms of recruitment and scouting, I do have some guys in the office. I do have some guys around, not even Germany. It can be somewhere Scandinavia. It can be France. It can be in our main markets, possibly one in South America. So because I do believe that the football is developing that fast, I don't need to have all the guys physically there on the same location. I don't need that. We can share information. We can do have Zoom meetings. We can do a WhatsApp meetings. I like, for sure, it's always good to have a private contact with the guys, to see each other, to look with each other in the eyes. But honestly, if you ask me, if I trust a guy, or I do have the feeling that a guy loves to work for the club, I don't mind if he's there or not. If he's good in what he's doing and he's living in Scandinavia, I'm fine. So then I will invite him to Stuttgart to be there possibly once in 2 months or 1 month, to be there to have a personal chat with him. Otherwise, I don't care. But this is my personal opinion.
Yeah, of course. Are you yourself traveling to watch games and to watch players?
Yeah, interesting questions. When I started my job in Dresden, I was watching possibly 20, 30 games live a month, sometimes more, 30, 40. And how should I say it? When I started in Paderborn, it was COVID. So we had to change a bit our strategy in terms of scouting. And in the years, I scouted less and less live, less and less. I do believe that the better you are working under the week, the less you have to do at the weekend. So I'm possibly watching, don't get me wrong, 3-4 games live a month. That's it. Okay, for sure, in the transfer window, if we have to spend 20, 25 million, 50 million, for sure, I will watch him live. But, when I was younger, I thought like I have to always, when agents ask me the questions, where are you at the weekend? I was telling him, yeah, I'm watching 5, 6, 7 games live. And now in the midtime, I do believe that with all the information we do have from the data side, from the video side, from the personal insights about the player, the better you are under the week, the less you have to be at the stadium at the weekend.
Okay, so now let's take a closer look to the transfer window, Thomas.
Yes.
When do you determine the profiles for the next transfer window?
Now it's again interesting question for me. For me, there is no real start or stop button if it's coming to a transfer window. In my mind, possibly I'm a bit different. There's always, it's a running process. So I do know already which player we have to sign for 2026. This is possibly something I do know it because I know the players from the academy coming out. I do know the players from the second team coming out. I do know the market. I do know the bigger clubs looking at our players because my job is to gain as many information as possible. So I do know when we sell the players as expected. I do know in an expected percentage when we do sell the players. So if it's coming to the profiles, for sure, we do have them now. I had like 10, 15, 20 chats with agents, and I told them, listen, for summer, we do need this position, this profile. So it's always a process. There's never a start or a stop button.
So there's no deadline day for you.
Honestly, deadline deal doesn't exist, in my opinion. This is a miracle or myth coming out of the media. I know that football is for a lot of people the mid of life, and so it's always interesting to create a story, to build a story. But if you work for a football club, I can tell you an example from a former club, not from my current club. That's why I'm telling you there's a difference between theory and practice. The deadline deal was on Monday, and with all the data, with all the paperwork you have to do, normally the deadline deal day, or it looks like a deadline deal day, but it's never a deadline deal day. So except you're moving a guy from, I need to say Karlsruhe to Stuttgart, because then the difference or the direction is only 80 kilometers. So there was one example. I got a phone call Saturday evening. We do sell our best striker. Which player is available? So in theory, you do have 10, 15, 20 players for each position, and you do rank them and you do list them, and you say, like, this is my number one, this is my number two, this is the profile we are looking for. But in practice, it was Saturday evening, and on Monday the transfer window got closed. So I was calling 5, 6, 7 agents, big agencies, and I was asking them, hey, listen, which player is available? And at the end, collected 4 names, and I presented them to the sporting director and the coach, and we made the decision. So the deadline deal exists in terms of, for the media, it exists, but not in real life. But with Pablo's presentation before, I do believe that the deadline deal exists also because of the English clubs, because their market starts possibly 2 months later than the German market, because they don't care about money. So that's why a deadline deal day exists, but normally it doesn't exist, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah. In determining which players are interesting, Thomas, how important are data for you?
I'm a data-driven guy. I need to say it like that. I do believe that without good data, it's almost impossible to present a player to the coach and the club. But I need to say as well, we do have a young, ambitious, and very modern coach as well. So the first question he's asking me is, what about the data? So this is for my job, the best case. So this is a best case scenario. Having a coach who's asking you at the first question, what about the data? So this is something for me, making the role easier and making it easier to introduce the data to the club. So for me, but if you ask me personally, I would say it's the most important part of scouting.
But what if you're working with a coach that is not interested in data?
Yeah, you always, it's not only the coach, there are more, I always tell them bodyguards. So you do have some bodyguards in the club. You always do have a coach, you do have a sporting director, sometimes you do have the CSO and the CFO. So there are different bodyguards, and you always have one guy who's not interested in the data. So no matter if it's the coach or not. Mm-hmm. If it's not the coach, or if the coach is not interested, I would try to make him interest into the data. So that means I would try to present him players who are good, which data is good. I need to say about data, at the end, there's never a right or wrong, but it's objective truth to a certain point, in my opinion. So I try to deal with every single circumstance, and I would also try to deal with this coach. If he's not interested in the data, then it's more about getting a feeling for the person sitting in front of you. And, if you work longer together with a coach, you know which type of player he likes or not. So then you have to deal with the circumstances or with the surrounding of the coach and the club as itself. So there's never a either or. I would always try to integrate it in the process, but for sure it's easier for us if the coach is interested into data.
Yeah. What data filters are important for you? Which data exactly?
For sure, the physical data. The physical data is so we created an in-house system. So I need to say it like that. So for us, we do have a data filter system for every single position, and we do look for a special metric, or we do look for a special. We do say we created a score for every single position, and if a player crosses the score, we do get like an alarm signal or something like that. So for every single position, there are different types of data, which is important. For me, for instance, for a center back, it's not about it's about the speed and the acceleration and the agility. It's not about the running distance as itself. So there's always something you have to, which is more important for every single position.
Okay. Are there other aspects or parameters that determine whether a player is interesting?
Sometimes I do say it, but this is my personal opinion. The transfer market profile is interesting in terms of when I do see a transfer market profile, you can make an interpretation of the transfer market profile. Is it his first club? Is it his second club? Honestly, if you ask me, if we go for a foreign player, I always like it if he was somewhere else before. That means he had to leave his hometown before, his family, his friends. So it's easier to make him adapt or not. We are not the first club trying to adapt him to take him out of his personal environment. So if we do speak about minutes on the pitch, does he start the minutes of this? Does he get the first minutes in the season? Does he start to play at the mid of the season? Does he start at the end of the season? So there are so many different aspects in scouting a player or scouting as itself. It's also not only about the transfer market profile. So there are so many more characteristics. Does it make sense if he's going to a club like us, if you know what I mean? Is it the right next step if I look at transfer market? Does his character or the background check tell us something about him as a player that he fits to VfB Stuttgart or to our club as itself? So there are so many different aspects of scouting a player.
Yeah.
So it's not.
And what about, for example, social background?
Yes.
Family, that kind of things?
So for sure, social background is one of the. I'm not sure if it's still underrated. I'm always saying the social background check is possibly the most important one. A lot of scouts do believe that it's good to bring in a new player and no one else knows the player. So this is not how I define my job. We define our job as trying to create a performance team. That means if we want to create a performance team, does every player knows his role in a team? That means, is he a guy who is putting a lot of effort on the training crowd when he started the day in the morning? Is he putting a lot of effort on the pitch when he trains? What is he doing after the training session? I don't care about, honestly, if a guy goes out from day to day, I don't mind. I was young as well. I was studying. So I would say this would be a miracle for me if none of these guys is not having fun somewhere else. For me, it's about knowing his role. And if he knows his role, is he passionate enough to challenge something if it's not going right? That means if he's not playing, is he still a guy who's putting a lot of effort on the pitch? And they're always top stars, but they are also good squad players who are putting pressure on their opponents. So for me, this all belongs to a background check as well. Is he willing? Is his willingness there to be the right player for VfB Stuttgart and to beat possibly something unexpected? That means if he's not playing, if he's not, something can happen to the player or somewhere else. is he able to compete with this situation? And this is something the background check shows us, in my opinion.
Okay, dealing with agents, Thomas, there are different approaches. Do you actively reach out to larger agencies regarding the profiles you're looking for, or do you mainly provide feedback when they contact you?
No, it's never an either or. So when I started in Dresden, like I told you before the story, I was a bit frustrated when I saw how scouting went in the past. So we tried not. When I speak about me, don't get me wrong, I do speak about the department as itself. We had the conclusion, or we tried to be proactive on the market. That means proactive in taking players from somewhere else. I'm always saying, you don't need me to make a transfer market transfer. That means if a player is playing 200 games in Bundesliga, you don't need me. You don't need me. So or us as a department. So what we did is we always proactive. So because of my past, because I was frustrated when I saw it, how it went. So when I started my job in Paderborn, or we started in Paderborn, this was the first thing I tried to implement in the club, that we are proactive on profiles and players we are looking for. And for sure, an agent and the player as well, they do recognize if you put a lot of effort into the recruitment job as well. They do know, because I'm always saying there are limited spots in every single team. So possibly next year we do sign 3, 4, 5 players. I don't know, possibly 6. So, but I do have in my mind already a list of 50, 60 players fitting into that profiles, onto that role. And, if we sign one, we can't sign 9 other players, but that doesn't mean that we will never sign them again. So in my opinion, you have to be proactive in every single period, no matter if it's transfer period or not. You have to take contact with the players, with the agents as well. So it's more the agents than the players, but you have to stay in touch. You have to keep them updated, and because I always do believe that we do see us twice in football.
Yeah, that's right. What about the markets you explore? Are you always reaching out to markets or also to new markets?
No, this is a bit, in my opinion, it's a club decision. So we never say, in my job or in our job as VfB Stuttgart, we have to know the whole world. It is like it is. So we do have a lot of scouts. We do have possibly one of the best data scouts in Germany, I would say. So our job is to know all the markets, all the players. But at the end, it's a club decision. If you're willing to sign a player from somewhere abroad, from a culture you don't know that good, that means, for instance, now there's the Under-20 championship in South America. We do know all the players, but it's a bit a club decision not to go for these players right now, because it's not only about scouting or signing players. It's also about having the environment to make them adapt to the next step, which is VfB Stuttgart. So right now we made the decision not to go directly for a player from South America. So, but this could change from transfer window to transfer window. At the end, I'm also dependent on guys I can trust. And I need to say, or I need to tell you something, there are always good players in South America. And I was calling a friend of mine who was working for a big club as well over there. And I asked for a special opinion about a South American player. And he told me, you know what? I can tell you something about him, but I would never, I'm not even trusting my friends in South America if they are telling me the truth. Though at the end, if you go for these players, or if you go in these markets, you have to know that possibly the risk or the gamble is a bit higher than to go from a player where you have more information. This is a bit a club decision, in my opinion. And
okay,
I can deal with signing a player from there, and I'm also okay if we say no, not for now. Possibly in 1 year we will change our strategy.
Okay, I'm integrating a question of Pablo Giacomuzzi on this topic. In fact,
Yes.
How do you assess the risk of a deal, and which level of acceptance do you have?
The risk of a deal. This is possibly the most interesting part of making a deal. At the end, my job is to say no in 99% of the cases. So because I get possibly 100 mails, WhatsApp messages with players a day. The sporting director's getting possibly 200 mails with players, sporting directors, etc. The CFO. So we do have a lot of door openers to get in a club like Stuttgart, and it's always about evaluating the risk of a deal. So sometimes the deal looks better than. Sometimes it's about the deal looks good. The player, it's a bit a gamble, but the deal looks good as itself. Or the risk, you can't take the risk, or you can take the risk because the player or in the squad, there's such a good chemistry or something that you can try to gamble on a special player because of the deal, in my opinion. So it's always about evaluating the deal. This is, if you're selling up, you always have to think about this.
In the presentation of Pablo, we saw that young players are getting more and more important in the transfer market. What about the balance for you between signing experienced players and the young ones with the possibility of bringing in money afterwards?
So first of all, we do have the youngest squad in the league, and we do have the youngest average age of the starting lineup in the league. But this is not because. So the strategy was a bit there before in Stuttgart. So because of the former sporting directors. So what we did was we do have the strategy. We like it to bring in young players, but sometimes it's not about age. I think it's a bit more, you can sign an 18-year-old guy and he's already experienced. So for me, it's not a matter of age. So it's a bit of, again, when I'm coming to the last question, it's a bit about lowering down the risk. So we do sign young players, and you can also sign a player who's 20. So this was our transfer strategy. When I started my job in Stuttgart, we went for players not aged 17, 18. We went for players with a proven quality, but still young. That means 19, 20, 21, 22, because the deal was good, because we had to do it like this. So for sure, it's always good to sign young players, and I feel more comfortable with signing young players because I do believe that we can create a good path for them as well. But we will never say no to a good lad in the squad if he's older. Why? It's a bit depending on the team as itself, I would say.
Yeah, but that's a difficult balance between staying competitive and making money at the same time. No.
This was something I was asking once. I was asking a friend of mine who was working for a big club. I asked him, do you want to become champion or do you want to sell players? So because sometimes I do believe that that clubs are saying they did a good job when they sell players, but this is not, I'm still young, I'm ambitious. Our club is ambitious. We want to win a title. I'm not winning. We are not winning a title for selling as many players as possible with the highest money ever, transfer fee received ever. So you have to be balanced, and I think you can still sign we can sign young players, and at the same time you can win titles. So has always, but it shouldn't be. Football is a bit strange. I think that a lot of guys are only willing to sign the new Lamine Jamal, and they want to make money out of it. But this is, in my opinion, not the right way. I know that this is a Bundesliga manager game. This looks like a Bundesliga manager game, but it's still. There are a lot of people, their job is dependent of the league the club is playing in, and if they are successful or not. So we are still responsible for this kind of guys as well. So for sure, as a scout, you always love it if you sign a player for 2 million euro and you sell him for 30 million euro. This is the best case scenario, but it shouldn't be the only aspect you're evaluating.
Do you prefer, Thomas, the safe approach of signing players early, or do you take the risk of waiting until the end of the window in hopes that better players become available? And maybe cheaper.
Erwin, there are always better players. So this is a bit, in my opinion, it's depending on the position. I was always saying, again, an example, when I was working for a former club, there was a special position. It was a striker, and we had 4 or 5 candidates on the list. And the only thing I was telling my sporting director was, if one of them is getting available, no matter which one, take him. because this is striker market is unbelievable hard. So, and I always thought, like, when I was working for the smaller club, why can't you get a good striker for 2, 3, 4, 5 million? But there is always a competitor on that market as well. So for me, it's a matter of the position. So I would say it's a safe transfer can be a striker in terms of if he's getting available and you like him, take him. A safe transfer can be if you do sign a good number 6 who's structuring your game, sign him. If we do speak about wingers and box-to-box players, there are plenty of these players out of the world, and you can take the risk and wait a bit because the English market is open 3 days before the transfer window is closed, and then you do get 50 new profiles on every single position. So this is for me depending on the position, not on the category of transfer, in my opinion.
Nevertheless, on deadline day, strange things can happen. It's like that.
Yeah, deadline deal day is, but it's still it's a move in my opinion. So when you looked at our transfer, our last transfer window, we sold a center back on Sunday and we brought in 2 on Monday. But trust me, this was only on paper.
Okay. Who makes the final decision, Thomas? Do all the members of the team and the board have to agree, or is it by majority, or even in another way?
In my opinion, it's almost impossible that all the guys do agree on one position, because you do have 4 different type of guys. So there's the coach who wants to be successful on a short-term way. There's a sporting director. He wants to be successful on a midterm way. And there's the CSO and the CFO, and they do have a long-term strategy. And there's the head of the youth academy, possibly as well, who wants to bring in a youth player. So it's almost impossible to get the green light from every single position or from every single guy. So at the end, it's about if we make a decision, we do sit together and we do evaluate the risk of a transfer, and we do evaluate the candidates. And if I do have the feeling, I already know how much money we do have in summer. I already know which player we have to sell 2026. So I do have the whole picture of the market. And for me, I do have the easiest job ever, because I can provide names. I can tell them, listen, I would do it, but I'm not the guy who is showing his face in the camera. So for me, it's the easiest job ever,
Yeah.
But for us, luckily, I need to say it like that. We do have a club where the parties who are involved are very easy, and we do fight, but we do agree at the end.
Okay, that's nice. And is it the same process for buying a player as well as for selling a player?
Yes.
Yeah.
Same process, same guys involved at the end. When it's coming to our last transfers, we sold a player who was a starting 11 player in the Champions League in 7 of 8 games, and we brought in 2 players, and not that experienced, younger, not experienced on international level. So for sure, it's the same guys. You need a coach, you need the sporting director, you need the CFO. So it's the same people taking the decision.
Okay. Meanwhile, you're, of course, very experienced. How do you manage to keep on growing, to get better and better in your job every day?
I want to have the best people in my team. That means I want to have the best data scientists in my team. I want to have the best scout in my team. I want to have a guy who's competitive, who's better in different areas or regions or markets than I am. So I want to have a discussion all day. That means I want to speak about players, because again, there's no right or wrong about a player. There's only a right or wrong about the timing to making a transfer or move on a special player. So I do believe that you can only grow if you do have knowledge around you. Is it personal knowledge? Is it management knowledge? Is it negotiating knowledge? And I'm always asking for more responsibility. So this is what I'm doing. I want to know why we do make this transfer, and I want to get as many information as possible to see why we make a decision or not. And you need good guys around you to grow. This is for me the only way to grow, and you need to speak to people. When it's coming to scouts, and I can only give you an advice because I had a scouting department over there, not the club in Stuttgart before, one of the two clubs before. And I was saying to my scouts, because they told me they are not really willing to speak with other scouts or agents. And I was telling them, listen, interesting, this is good for me and this is good for the club. But if no one knows that you are good, how would you make the next step? So only I'm the guy who's, it's good for me, it's good for the club, but it's not good for him. So go out, speak with people, spread out with people, speak with agents. At the end, this is part of the job as well. If you're not willing to do it, you can be the best background guy ever. This is okay for me as well. It's about defining your role, but I do believe that you can be the best background guy in the world. You can be the best data scientist. Speak with other data scientists. Speak with other people. Share experiences. Go out, speak with experts, go try to make contact with other guys, look how other clubs are working. This is what I'm doing. I'm interested into how our Premier League clubs making decisions. What are they doing? Which kind of transfers are they doing? That's why I was curious about the presentation of Pablo as well. This is for us interesting about new trends in transfer market. The transfer market changed completely. We do sell now. We are the best example in Germany. Last year, Frankfurt signed Uzun from Zweite Bundesliga for, I would say, 12, 13 million euro. This was a new step in Germany as well. It's not only England. Transfer market is changing. So go with the flow, go with the trend, try to speak with people, and don't stop exploring, don't stop getting as many information as possible. So speak with people, go out, speak with experts. This is what I can suggest to you guys.
Yeah, very inspiring. Thank you, Thomas. Talking about the presentation of Pablo, do you consider market trends when determining the markets?
So the thing a bit about the market trends is there's always a trend on a market, on a special market. I do have again an example. There was an agent reaching out to me, I think 6 months ago, and he was telling me, listen, there's a big tournament in MLS, and you're the only big club who's not around, who's not there in person. And you know what I was telling him? I don't mind, I don't care, because you know what? Next year, there's the next generation coming again with new players. At the end, it's about, we have to, the market is changing, not only because of England, also because of Saudi Arabia. So we are stupid if we are not going with the next trends, but we have to be aware that everything is changing. So the Scandinavian player who was worth 2 million euro before is now worth 5 million euro. So in my opinion, there's no real trend. It's about, it's about lowering the risk a bit. It's not about going with a trend, it's about lowering a risk. And for me, lowering a risk is also investing a bit less than possibly. If I do speak about the transfer market profile from England, I know we have to pay 25 million euro. The same player playing in Denmark is worth 5 million euro. This is about decreasing the risk a bit.
Yeah. How much financial and budget information do you provide to your scouts?
Depending on the number of scouts. So I do think that people do grow with more experience. So this is a bit depending on the number of scouts you do have in the team, because I can't provide every single information to every single scout. So what I did before was I was trying to make them understand why we made a decision. So I was giving them a financial background as well. I was trying to provide them as many information as possible. This is what I do in Stuttgart as well, but with less people.
Yeah,
because it's not possible. The department is a bit bigger, but I'm dependent on guys working for me as well. So I need to provide them information. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense for me.
Yeah, I've got 2 questions left from myself, and then we move over to the questions of the attendees. Evaluation of the past transfer window. When do you make the evaluation?
We did it on Monday. So we did it because the timing was there. So we sat together, and but came a bit out of the sudden. Normally we do have an appointment over there and we make it possibly 2-3 days after the transfer window. So, but it was a bit spontaneous. So we made it, we spoke about the strategy, and the strategy changed a bit in the transfer window. We spoke about the players we signed. We spoke about, did we make something wrong? For me, it's always a process. You can make an appointment and you can speak about it. But for me, if you want to grow, you have to speak every single week about your last decision and if the decision was right or wrong. And honestly, you never know if the decision is right or wrong, because I always do say it's we are dependent of what 20 people are doing on the pitch. So and I have no idea. One of them is possibly losing his girlfriend or this, so this is something I can only provide. I can low down the risk as much as possible. This is how I define my job. And I can save the sporting director of making bad decision in terms of making transfer market transfers. So this is what I try to do. So we do sit together, I would say, every single week, and trust me, I do ask myself, or I do ask if we made the right decision every single day.
Okay, my final question is probably the most easy one. Is this your dream job, Thomas?
When I speak about football, I think you can see me smile. So I never expected to be there where I am right now. So it's still a dream. So for sure, it's a dream job. Did I miss something in the past? Yes, I missed so many birthday parties. I missed so many family parties. I was traveling so much. But is it a dream job? Yes, it is, because I have no idea if I could work on a normal job in daily life from 9 to 5. So for me, there's no border, or there is no free time or job. So it's always something in between, because when I'm watching a match, I love it. So I don't feel like, I have to work again. It's more like, no, I'm there. And I was watching Premier League because when I was working before for the club, because I love to watch Premier League. So, and now we can sign a player from Premier League. So it is a dream job. I need to say that.
It's a passion. It's no work.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
sure.
A nice conclusion. Thank you very much, Thomas. I already got 2 questions of our attendees. First of all, from Mo Grouse. What is the significance of linguistic and sociological aspects in recruitment decisions, especially considering that Germany has distinct characteristics compared to other countries?
Yes, so the linguistic and social background. Yeah, so at the end, it's we do have, if we speak about our team right now, it's always easier to bring in French-speaking guys because we do have a big French connection. So for sure, this is a big aspect on making a transfer happen or not, because, it's not only about us integrating. There are 2 different types of integrating a player in the team. So you can get in 3 different types. You can get integrated because of your language. You can get integrated because you are the best guy ever and your character is so easygoing that the guys love you. Or you can get integrated because you're quality-wise that good that they do accept you. So these are 3 different ways of integrating a player in a team. And for sure, if I do see our squad right now, we do think about it, or we do have a better feeling if we know there are people around him who can easily integrate him because of their social background or language background.
Okay. A question from Francisco Alonso. Based in your experience, Thomas, what are some ways of building a search profile with the head coach and the sporting director?
Okay. So luckily, again, I was, when I speak about my last 2 clubs, so the Paderborn, the transfer strategy was there before. So they went for players, young German players aged 18 to 24 from lower leagues. And in Stuttgart, it was a bit, I think I can say, the coach brought back the DNA to the club. So our current coach. So I think the club was a bit lost and the current coach brought back a DNA. So for sure, I know, because now we do work together since 1.5 years or a bit longer now. I know which player fits to him and which player fits to the club as well. So and to the sporting director, because it's not only about the coach, it's also about the sporting director. And I do know which player I can present over there and which profile the coach and the sporting director do like. So this is for sure the easiest way is if you do have a coach like ours, where you do have a clear, straight strategy or how he plays or how he sees football, and as well the sporting director. This is for sure.
Yeah. What is the best way you think to build confidence with the head coach?
Speak with him. Speak with him. Don't lie to him. I've always heard like, you need to sell the player better like he is in real life. I do believe that you have to speak about the players. You have to speak what they can do and what they can't do. You have to tell them something about the social background. You have to be honest with him, because I do believe this is the easiest way to build confidence with a coach, because the coach does have only a small picture or piece of puzzle, a small piece of picture of the transfer market, which players are available or not. And I do believe the more you do speak with the coach, the more you know about his mindset, the more you know about his demands for a player, the easier it is to build trust and to build confidence with the coach.
Okay. A question from Joël Damahou. All coaches have wishes, demands. How do you balance between the coach's will, the reality of the market in what is possible or not in the decision making?
It's for sure it's integrated in the decision making. So the easiest way is if the coach likes the player and the sporting director likes the player as well, and we do like the player. This is the easiest way. At the end, it's about, if we speak about trust and confidence with the coach, there have been also examples when we spoke about players last year and I was presenting them to the coach and he was like, I don't like them, but I need to double check them. And then he came back and told me, listen, yeah, you're right. So it's always for me, the coach's voice and the sporting director's voice is the most important one. So because then the coach, this is what I was trying to say from the beginning. The coach wants to be successful, and he doesn't care about age. So if he's 18, 19, 20, he wants to be successful with the team, and you have to have him on your side to make a transfer happen, in my opinion. So, but again, I do have luckily the situation that we are a very easygoing team around the decision makers with making a transfer happen or not. So we do know what Stuttgart stands for, and we do know what the coach is standing for, and we do have a clear strategy of signing players and a clear philosophy of how we want to play football. So I can speak from my personal point of view out of a perfect world, because we do have a perfect scenario in Stuttgart right now.
Okay. Once again, a question from Francisco Alonso. What is the process like in scouting a player? How many people are watching him before signing him?
So it's not about the numbers. For me, it's a bit about the process. So there is normally, in a perfect world again, but it's almost impossible to sign a player we don't know. So there's either there was the data good or the video or the live scouting was good. So there are involved, I would say, minimum 4 or 5 people. So the scout who's responsible for the region. So I know there are clubs scouting for position, there are clubs scouting for regions, and there are scouts only doing data background work or data work in scouting. We do combine every single aspect. So we do region scouting, we do position scouting, and we do data scouting. So the data scout is involved, the video scout is involved. There's a scout involved who's making the final scouting, also cutting videos. So there's the sporting director involved, there's me involved, and the coach involved. So at least the process right now, it sounds more irritating than it is in total, but I would say minimum 5-6 people saw the player before.
So also a cross-checking part.
Yes. Cross-checking.
Definitely.
We do a lot of for sure, because at the end, I'm also dependent of my scouts. So I'm dependent because I can watch every single player. So in a perfect world, I do have the 5 best wingers on the position. I'm cross-checking 5 wingers, and then I do make the decision. So this is the perfect scenario.
Yeah. The next one is a very interesting one from David Shankland. Are you also involved with researching, identifying, and recruitment of the next head coach when the time comes?
Yeah, this is an interesting question. So possibly I do say something without saying something. So the trust between me and the CFO is there since 5 years. Now you can make out of my question what you want to do. So this is up to you.
Interesting answer as well. A question from Gus. Can you share your greatest challenges across recruitment and how you resolved the challenge?
Okay. Yeah, I can. I do have one good example. So because there's, in theory, like I told you before, in theory, you do have for every single player position 10, 15 players based on transfer budget, salary, etc. And we had the situation in a club. I'm not speaking. I have no idea which club it was before. So we had the green light from 2 players and agents. So it was almost done with financially done. It was salary wise, it was done. So the green light from the club was there, and it was 2 days before the transfer window gets closed, or 3 days. And then the agents ghosted us. So both of them. Ghosted us. So they didn't receive the call. They didn't answer the call. They didn't receive our messages. Or they saw the messages, but they didn't reply. So the most challenging situation was I had the green light for a special amount of money, which was really not high. I spoke with an agent about another player whose contract was running out 1 year later. So there was not really the possibility to buy him with that numbers I had on the desk. So what we did was we convinced the player, the agent, we convinced the club to extend his contract all in 5, 6, 7 hours. So because it was almost close to deadline deal day. So we agreed with the club to extend his contract to make him loan to us. So this was all, this was challenging, I need to say. This was challenging from the sporty side, and from the personal side, challenging for me was when I started my job. And you always have, sometimes you do have a good connection to agents, players, etc., or other clubs. And we did invite a player, and we agreed about numbers. We agreed about the contract. We agreed because I knew the agent quite well, and we gave the green light for the transfer. And the next day, the sporting director told me, listen, I don't have a good feeling anymore. Please cancel it. So from out of negotiating the contract, giving the green light for the contract, etc., it was from my personal perspective not easy to call the agent and tell him, listen, we won't go for it. Something changed, or because you found another player fitting more to our profile, fitting in with better numbers. So this was from the personal side, it was challenging for me. So I had 2 different aspects. One was the sporty side, and one was the personal side.
And also coping with a difficult decision, you have to tell the agent for the relationship. Very important, the way you bring this message.
Yes. Because this is what I told you before. You have to have a good relationship also with the guys working in football, because at the end, the football world is small. So, and I don't like it if someone is bullshitting me, or someone is telling me shit. So I do believe that it's always easier to tell someone the truth, because the football world is small.
Yeah, we're going to the last 2-3 questions. So, dear attendees, if you have any interesting questions, don't forget to put them right now in the Q&A box. Which market country is upcoming or underrated? A question from Sean Bishop.
Underrated in Germany for first Bundesliga, for me, the Eredivisie, because I do believe a lot of guys are watching Belgian, they are watching Ligue 1, Ligue 2, they are watching Premier League. But for me, and they like it to go from players to go to sign players from Portugal or either more likely than Spain. But Netherlands, for me, how we do play football, Eredivisie, you know, they are well educated, playing style is good, and I think that on a physical aspect, the players always they can improve. So as soon as they do adapt with the playing style, etc. But the technical abilities, they are there, and the technical skills are there to make them adapt to our playing style. So I do believe that for us in Stuttgart, the Eredivisie is a good market because it's not that competitive like other markets.
Okay, I guess the final question from Gus. What does the future of recruitment look like in your opinion?
Future of recruitment. Okay, in the future recruitment, I do have a data scientist, or I do have an application, and I'm asking the AI which player we should sign for a transfer budget from 5, 6, 7, 8 million euro for that position with that characteristic, because he's fitting into our playing style, because our scouts said in life he's good enough, our data is saying he's good enough, and our experience is saying he's good enough. So I do believe that in future wise, AI is getting more and more important. So if you ask me, so that doesn't mean that we still have to do our job. That means if they're providing us 10 names, then we have to go from there. But with all the information, with all the background information, with all the scouting reports about players, you always forget something. So I think that future-wise, this is how I do see it, what we try to create as well. I want to ask AI, or try to ask ChatGPT, which player should VfB Stuttgart sign in the season 2025 for a transfer market budget from 5 million euro on a center-back position from Spain. Ask ChatGPT, so you can ask them. So I would say future-wise, this is what we try to integrate in Stuttgart. We will ask the AI if it's possible, because of our scouting reports, our data check, our background check, which player we should sign. And then we will start from there.
Okay, maybe it will be an interesting topic for our next webinar, AI in recruitment.
Yes.
Yeah, sounds very interesting. Thomas, thank you.
Possibly.
Thank you very much for your interesting conversation. So, ladies and gentlemen, dear attendees, we have reached the end of this webinar. A big thank you to our keynote speakers, Pablo and Thomas. And thank you for attending this webinar, for being with us. We hope it was worth your time. And remind, this session has been recorded and saved to the website of EAS. So you can review it whenever you want within a few days. Watch the channels of EAS for further information. We hope to see you back next time. Enjoy the evening. Enjoy the weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.